circumstances that until we hear from the technical team and your communication, because you are the one supposed to guide us on how to proceed, not to ask us procedure. I can't constitute myself into a chairperson now start guiding the committee. No, it is your powers, Madam Chair.
Yes, I know, but that is why. That is the exact reason as to why I asked.
And these people, you can't trust them. You cannot trust any of them. They will come here and they will misguide the committee. They will say it is before a court, the petition collapses there. They would prefer to buy more time.
Madam Chair. Yes, please. Yes, Honorable. Yeah, in light of the circumstances, I want to propose that as we seek guidance on how to proceed, the members went through the regulations that were tabled, and we noted some issues. So we can still go ahead and look at those issues since the technical team is here for clarity.
Further procedure.
Madam Chair.
Further procedure.
All the matters members are raising, because if what they are raising is what is in court, that one first to find out the technical person and the legal person, because we will get the pleadings and they know what is in court and guide you accordingly. Then you guide us that this is not in court, this is not in court, proceed on this.
Okay, clerk, can you please guide the committee? What is Madam Chair, before the clerk comes in? Okay. Yes. The matters that were put to court are very clear. You rightly say that they are the matters that are in the petition. So we all know the matters that have been taken to court. We can even discuss outside those matters. Just like I said, there are other issues we try to find out from the regulations that were tabled. Why don't we go through them and we seek clarity from the technical team now that the other issues have nothing to do with what is before court? Exactly. Okay, meanwhile, let me get guidance from the clerk.
Before the chair comes in, Madam Chair, this meeting was supposed to be there last week. It was postponed to today. The assumption was if there was any matter to be raised or any guidance to be sought, the guidance was sought already. We cannot sit here at a time when even the minister has been invited, and this is the time we start asking matters of guidance. It is very unfortunate that we should have used the previous time we had to come or to call off the meeting. We are here, the members are here, the minister is here, UCC is here. I really feel...
Honorable Patrick, I understand and I really kick what you're saying. Yes, this meeting was supposed to be held last week, but the ministry sent an apology. The ministers were not available for that meeting. And as you are aware, this is a matter of a serious policy. And you need the heads of the ministry to guide. Because even if we came up with resolutions here, and the minister is not available and they are not at par with us, then our efforts will be futile. So I hope, or I pray that you understand the reasons as to why this meeting was postponed from last week to today, because it was a request coming from the ministry.
Procedure, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, the issue is asking whether it is right or wrong to raise a preliminary matter at this particular stage. Our rules of engagement as members of Parliament, both in the committee and on the floor of the House, if you catch the eye of the Speaker, and in this instant case you are the chairperson, if I catch your eye, I can raise any preliminary matter. So it is your ruling. In this case, it is a technical matter. It is a technical matter where we have to know the details of what is in court. What is in court is read from the pleadings, from the pleadings in court. and it is this man who is in charge of that.
And that is where I was going. Yes, that is where I was going, because that's why, honorable members, we have to make a distinction between what is before the committee and what is before court. Yes. We cannot just move blindly and then find ourselves in trouble, yet we would have...
Madam Chair.
Yes.
What you are putting up is for the committee to make a decision on.
I hope you are aware that the committee cannot proceed if it is the same matters that are before court. That's why I want us to find out, then we proceed.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this, yes. Madam Chair.
Yes.
We have the petitioners, who it is alleged are the ones who went to court. We have the ministry in front of us, and yet we are supposed to make a decision as a committee on whether we should listen to the people.
So can I proceed and see whether we can move or not?
I'm finalizing my procedure point.
Yes.
I'm proposing that we now suspend these proceedings. We take out the petitioners and the ministry. We give ourselves some time to hear and make a decision whether we should invite the witnesses. Because we cannot be in front of the petitioners, the ministry, and then we are debating whether we should hear petitioners.
Because the petitioners would have been the person who raised this is a response from the ministry.
Madam Chair, as a committee, we are not going to engage.
Can I get from the minister? Please, this is from the ministry. This document is from the ministry. It's not.
So let's look at it as a committee.
But I'm privy to information, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. And it is to the discretion of the chairperson to either proceed or not to proceed.
We had an hour here, chairperson.
Yes.
We had an hour here.
So can I hear from the minister? Then we proceed. We see whether we are to proceed or not. Just wait, just a minute. The minister's hand was on earlier on.
First of all, Madam Chair, I am a member of Parliament. If I can recollect my knowledge to my ability, our rules of procedure give powers either the Speaker or the Chair to make decisions on behalf of the committees on how a matter of this magnitude is brought to this committee. It is true, as a ministry, I want to say this, we really need to seek your guidance on this specific matter, because the petitioners are here, they did went to court, so we are here. So we need you to use your authority as mandated and empowered by the rules of procedure to either allow us to proceed with the matter, or we look at the sub judice rule, because the matter before court, with due respect, it is entirely, Madam Chair, your discretion as the chair of this committee, guided by your legal team. But for us as a ministry, it's one of the issues we want to put it on record that we seek your guidance. Either we proceed with the matter here, or we can also still wait to handle the matter before courts of law.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Then I come to the Vice.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and honorable members. It is true, the matter was taken to court, and the ISP Association had sought an interim injunction.
Please proceed.
The association had sought an interim injunction, and the judge deferred the matter to the 26th of this month to allow Parliament and therefore the committee to consider the matter, because the judge was aware that they went both to Parliament and to court. So the judge in his ruling said that Parliament should exercise its powers over the regulations in accordance with the 30 days that are provided in the Act. So in our opinion, Honorable Chair, the committee is very much in order to proceed.
Why did you raise the preliminary?
No, but the meeting hasn't started either. Chair raising it, not the ministry.
Madam Chair, I am getting guidance from our legal person. Maybe if you could move closer and give it verbatim, as you have told me. The legal,
Madam Chair,
just a minute, let's get guidance. Can we get the procedure?
Chair.
Excuse me?
Madam Chair, procedure.
Have you had the
Procedure, Madam Chair. I don't know if you are proceeding well. You actually requested the PS to give some information, and you didn't get the information from the PS. My procedure point is, can we first get the information from the PS, then you can invite the legal team to...
PS, repeat what you said, please.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, honorable members, as I said earlier, that indeed the matter was taken to both Parliament and court. And when the ISP Association sought an interim injunction, the judge deferred the hearing to the 26th of this month, arguing that Parliament should exercise its powers that is given in the Act to look at the regulation within the 30 days, implying that Parliament can indeed proceed with the matter, with the petition, and then perhaps should we not come to any constructive conclusion, then the matter will be dealt with in court. But even then, I think there is a substantial hearing on the 26th. Yeah, the matter will be heard on the 26th. But why the judge refused to issue an interim injunction was because the matter was before Parliament. So it was premature to issue that injunction.
Okay, that is the guidance, because members, you cannot just move blindly. You have to get proper guidance and hear from all sides, then proceed, and that's what I needed. And the legal counsel to the committee was saying something, then we can now continue from there.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, based on what exactly he said and what we have before us, ideally, what our rules say is that we are supposed to await, basically if there's a court matter, the sub judice rule says we're supposed to wait for court to decide and we cannot proceed. But this is a bit unique because this time the judge threw it back to us, saying we should proceed with the matter. And because it's not the main suit, this was in the interim. The interim is the application, it's within the main suit. So the main suit is actually still with the court, and ideally we cannot proceed on the interim because the main suit is still in, and ideally the sub judice rule should prevail.
It should prevail? Yes. So we can't discuss? We can't discuss? Be clear?
Thank you, Chair. Under our rules of procedure, the sub judice rule is ably talked about, and the rules give the Speaker the power to rule over a matter and decide whether the committee or House should continue with investigations. But in the circumstances, the judge actually brought back the matter to Parliament. But either way, the proceedings can go on, and we can seek that guidance from the Speaker just after, immediately.
Madam Chair, I was in the House sometime when we were dealing with the similar matters, and the Speaker, in her own words, ruled that no institution is going to stop Parliament from doing their work. Even the Constitution itself says on matters of justice, people shall not be denied justice on the basis of technicalities. We can move under those circumstances and hear the petition on its own merit. If we dispose it off, the parties who are here, I think they are the ones in court, they will have the privilege to report to court and say we resolve the matter in the House.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, yes.
Yeah, thank you. In the same line, I think the practice is that if a matter goes to court first, then in most cases Parliament will be restrained from taking on, and vice versa. If the matter comes to Parliament first, then court cannot proceed because they will be directly interfering with the parliamentary proceedings. And I think that is why the ruling Honorable Tinker is referring to, it was because someone ran to court to try to stop what was already before Parliament. And I think within the wisdom of the judge, it is when the judge and the UCC Act gives Parliament actually 30 days to do its work, and the judge aware of those circumstances, and also that this matter, when you see the dates, the Speaker referred this matter to this committee before they say the legal process had started. So that gives Parliament every mandate, now even concurred by court itself, for Parliament to conclude. And I think they are waiting for the outcome of Parliament, or for the period of Parliament to elapse before then court finds it reasonable to proceed with that suit. So I think we are in order to proceed.
Thank you. Can I hear from the host, from the chairman? Can you brief us on the court issues? Is our discussion in tandem with what you know? Maybe you could, and you try to be audible because the room is a bit large. You can come closer to the mic, use the other one, the other microphone.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It is true that the association went to court, and when we appeared before court on the last week, the judge actually pronounced and said that he cannot use up the powers of Parliament, and that's why he said that we should go back to Parliament, and we still had the 30 days, and he agreed and said that we should go back and have this concluded within the 30 days. If we do not conclude within the 30 days, then we can go back to court.
Okay. So now, members, you appreciate that we needed to consult and discuss amongst ourselves, such that now we move in a correct way. Can I now receive a response?
But, Madam Chair, for tomorrow, you don't need to waste a lot of our time.
No. It's not time wasted, Honorable Tinker.
We deal with the clerk and the legal office.
Honorable Tinker, it's not a wastage of time.
No. We did.
I think you appreciate, you can see what the kind of consensus we have reached at.
Even when that matter is raised by anybody, the people to guide your office, your desk, are these ones.
They did it.
Else we will confuse you the more.
No, it's okay. Nobody has confused us.
Our interests, we have different interests playing in. These people, their main interest is to guide you on the legal provisions. For us, we can bend it in any form to win a case before you.
I understand, and I appreciate your comment, Honorable Tinker. And the clerk, next time, please guide us early enough such that we know how to proceed. But I also want to tell you that this was not a wastage of time at all. We needed to move in a right way. So members, I think let's now receive responses from the Honorable Minister, because the petitioners were here last week. Can we receive your responses?
Madam Chair, first of all, I have...
and can we have a copy of your document?
Madam Chair, I beg to lay on table a copy of my documents, which...
Do you have copies?
Can I request my technical people to get copies and submit it to the chairperson? Madam Chair, we are really meant to be, I don't know why we are having use
You're
of...
supposed to be IT compliant.
We are meant to be...
Now that we are going IT scientific.
Compliant. I don't know why.
Procedure, Madam Chair.
I don't know why we are...
Yes.
Procedure.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, now that we heard from the petitioners last week, then I guess we were right to proceed as we have now been guided.
You're taking us backward.
No. So...
we have already moved past that stage. We are now receiving.
Yes, I'm asking.
Yes.
Do the petitioners have to be here to listen to what the minister is presenting?
I think they need to.
I think...
Does it hurt for them not to be here? Does it hurt?
It is in order for the petitioners to be here.
Yeah.
Since this is the only
it does
meeting.
not hurt.
Yeah.
Because you have asked us, does it hurt? It does not hurt. This is their case. They are the ones who came, who ran Parliament. They would want to hear how the minister is responding. And in any case, even in the face of COVID, they are not very many. We can allow them to But have you checked them properly?
Parliament checked them.
Okay.
Where are your papers?
Okay, Honorable Minister, please give us a copy of your... Can I
Officially given a copy to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, can I proceed?
Please proceed.
Madam Chair, first of all, I would like to begin by thanking the chairperson who is here and members.
Can we have one meeting, please?
Further to the petition paper, further to the position paper we earlier submitted, we wish to add the following additional information to further guide the members on this subject matter. I also wish to remind members that the petition by only seeks to challenge the Uganda Communications Fine and Regulations Amendment Regulation 2020.
So where are we?
We're in page 2 of 17.
Okay.
The petitioners have neither raised any objection to the Uganda Communications Fines and Fees and Fines Regulation 2019.
Madam Chair, the thing is not signed.
Madam Chair, I am here to own the paper, and that is the reason I'm personally presenting it myself.
Yeah, then sign.
Sign on one and hand it to the committee.
And it should be the one to go to the clerk. To the clerk. Such that we know that we are dealing with an
Thank you very much, Honorable colleague. Madam Chair, I was in paragraph 2. The petitioners have neither raised any objections to the Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Regulation 2019 nor the Uganda Communications Licensing Regulations 2019. We accordingly appeal to members not to broaden their consideration of their petition beyond what the petitioners raised in this petition. Madam Chair, I'm on 2.2, paragraph 2.2. Highlights of the current licensing framework. Under the current licensing framework, operators have been holding either a public infrastructure provider, that's the PIP license, B, a public service provider, that is PSP license, or a national telecom operator's license. And in this case, we are talking about, it is a MTN and UTL. A PIP license authorizes the licensee to provide infrastructure service across the country. Each holder with a PIP license has been free to deploy infrastructure such as masts, fiber, microwave, and other forms of ICT infrastructure anywhere in the country. Depending on the demand and supply, this has resulted into duplication of infrastructure deployment, thereby increasing the overall cost of provision of services. The PSP license, on the other hand, authorizes the licensee to provide voice and data services or capacity resale services to consumers across the country. The PSP voice and data license allows the licensee to provide public voice and data, cellular, fixed voice, GMPSC, internet access, including IP telephone, plus virtual private network, that are not provided over the internet. While PSP capacity resale allows the license to provide local and international capacity resale, calling cards. The PSP capacity resale allows the licensee to resell the telecommunication services of national of NTO, PSP, voice into brackets, voice and data, or a PIP. The licensee would, based on the commercial consideration, choose to obtain a license to provide either voice and data services or capacity resale across the country. The NTO license authorizes the licensee to provide both telecom infrastructure and public services. It's a unified license. This license was a preserve of only MTN and UTN. The old licensing framework, which has been in place since 2006, has been technology neutral and has not had any specific license for internet service provider. ISP has just been an industry term used to refer to operators who provide internet access services. Prior to 2006, there was a license called Internet Access Service, which was issued to ISPs. This license was granted to operators who wish to provide only data-stroke internet services. Madam Chair and honorable members, in recognition of convergence in the sector and emergence of the technological advancement which support provisions of voice over IP and voice over LTE, providers were allowed to leverage the full capacities of their platform. This resulted into adoption of the PSP, Voice and Data Services License, which allows the license holders the flexibility to provide both voice and data services. This has been the case since 2006. The services of the various voice and data providers are substitutes of each other with the same target user and differing only in the technology, stroke or medium of service delivery. For their own reasons, some ISPs chose on their own accord to limit their operations to only provision of data services and hence refers to themselves as ISPs. But in terms of licensing status, ISPs hold the same license as other operators who chose to provide voice and data services. Madam Chair and honorable members, good as the framework has been, it has resulted into a number of policy and regulatory challenges. These were prominently highlighted in the National Broadband Policy 2018-2. 1. Duplication of infrastructure services by different operators, since every operator with a PIP can freely deploy its own infrastructure. 2. High cost of internet services due to the high cost of infrastructure deployment. 3. Limited network reach, especially in the rural areas. Operator network implementation plan was driven by only commercial considerations. Barrier to the entry for operators who wish to serve only niche areas. Every PSP or PIP license was expected to be national, and holders of such licenses were expected to extend their service networks to cover the entire country. This has not been possible for all ISPs as shown in the Annexure A, where ISPs have since 2006 held PSP and PIP licensee that allow them to cover the whole country. Most of them have not invested in expansion of the networks beyond Kampala and a few urban centers. Why the new licensing regime? Madam Chair, a new licensing regime therefore seeks to rationalize and promote efficiency in the provision of the telecommunication service in Uganda by discouraging duplication and wastage of resources in the provision of the broadband services. B. Optimize usage and increase efficiency of broadband infrastructure in the utilization. C. Ensure that all parts of the country are connected to the broadband and not just urban areas by creating an incentives for operators focusing on the rural areas. D. Allowing operators to choose either to operate at the national, regional or communal levels. D. To ease market entry and increase competition and consumer choice in the telecommunication sector. To reduce the cost of investment in the ICT infrastructure by creating efficiency in the use of scarce resources. G. To promote seemingly transition from the existing frameworks into new frameworks. H. To encourage local ownership in the national operators. Madam Chair, before the new licensing regime was developed and included in the Uganda Communication Licensing Regulations 2019, the Commission, in accordance with the mandate under its mandate under Section 5.1 B 22 and 39 of Uganda Communication Act 2013 undertook a consultative process that started in 2019. The petitioners submitted response to the proposals, and the Commission, together with the Ministry, duly noted and took into account the concerns that were raised, that were made by the various stakeholders. The new framework has the following license categories. 1. The National Telecom Operators, that's the NTO license. This license will be granted to an operator that demonstrates financial and technical capacity to establish and operate a network spanning across the geographical boundaries of Uganda. The NTO license will allow the license holders to establish and provide both infrastructure and services across the entire geographical boundaries of Uganda. An NTO license holder will be allowed to provide all the telecommunication services and related value-added services in Uganda using any form of technology. Holders of this license shall be required to establish a robust network that covers at least 90% of the Uganda geographical boundaries. B, the National Public Service Provider, that is the NPS license. This license will allow the licensee to provide either voice and data services or capacity resale services across Uganda. A licensee will not be allowed to install or otherwise provide infrastructure service except if they obtain an appropriate PIP license as well. 3. Regional Public Service Provider. In short, that is the RSPS. This license will only allow the licensee to provide either voice and data services or capacity resale services in a specific region. A licensee will not be allowed to provide service outside their licensed region. The country has been divided into 4 regions. That is to say, Central, Kampala, Eastern, Northern, and Western, as per the map attached. 4. The National Public Infrastructure Provider license. This will allow the license holder to establish and provide infrastructure service to licensed national telecom operators, public infrastructure providers, public service providers, and public networks in Uganda. Holders of this license will not be allowed to provide service to final consumers except where the operators also holds the PSP license. 5. Regional Public Infrastructure Providers license. This license will allow the holder to provide infrastructure service to licensees authorized to operate in the authorized license areas, stock regions. 6. Communal access operators. This license will be granted to persons who intend to provide communal access to telecommunication services to specific communities in Uganda. A community includes a group of persons living in the same geographical locations having a particular characteristics and interests in common. A holder of the communal access license will be authorized to establish, operate, and provide communal access to telecommunication services to a particular community. An applicant for this license must provide evidence of finance and technical capacity to enter into a contract with the licensed provider or stock providers of telecommunication services in Uganda for purpose of providing communal access to the targeted community, and must demonstrate financial and technical capacity to sustainably provide the licensed stock authorized services to the targeted community. This license is typically up for community-based, not for profit entities that may wish to provide subsidized telecommunication service to the unserved or underserved communities. Madam Chair, in order to avoid regulatory ambiguities, what is this? Arbitrage. Their regulations require A. No operator will be allowed to hold 2 national licenses. That is, one cannot hold a national PIP and a national PSP at the same time. This is because any operator that wishes to cover the whole country with both infrastructure and services should be able to apply for a national telecom operator's license. B. No operator will be allowed to hold more than 2 regional licenses. This is because one who holds a license in 3 or 4 regions should be able to instead apply for national PSP or a national PIP license. 4.4, Madam Chair, paragraph. Reviewing a licensing framework cannot be completed without aligning the fees for different license categories. As part of the consultation, therefore, the Commission also asked the stakeholders to comment about the fees. This resulted in two first set of fees that were included in the Uganda Communications Fine Fees and Fines Regulations 2019. However, following the publications of Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Regulations 2019, the ISPs raised several concerns to Commission and the Minister. And indeed, several meetings were held between the ministry officials, the Commission, and the petitioners. After listening to their pleas, the ministry authorized the Commission to review fees computation, and after taking into account all the relevant factors, including the aspects of single operators license for PSP and PIP, as well as the factors of use of infrastructure for own services, among others, that would apply specifically to regional players, the fees were revised further downwards by 60%. This resulted into the issuance of the Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Amendment Regulation 2020, which significantly reduced the applicable fees as follows. Madam Chair, I don't know whether you'll permit me to read through all this, or since all of us have this document, but for purposes of record, one is NTO, the licensing fee under the 2020 amendment regulations, US dollars 21,300,000 US dollars, or it's a 1.84 of the licensee's prior year audited gross revenue multiplied by the prepayment period 10 years, whichever is higher. Then number two is the national PIP. US dollar is 86,000. This is $86,000, or 0.89% of the licensee prior year audited gross annual revenue, whichever is higher. Licensee fee under the regulations, of course, US dollars is 300, or 1.23% of the licensee's prior year's audited gross annual revenue, whichever is higher. Then three, the national PSP. US dollars is 86.30. When I talk about 86, I talk about 86,000 US dollar 30, or 0.89% of the licensee's prior year audited gross revenue, whichever is higher. The other side is 300 US dollar 300,000, or 1.23% of the licensee's prior year audited gross annual revenue, whichever is higher. We got four. There is a regional PIP, Kampala. US dollar, it is 43,000, 0.1%, or 0.89% of the licensee prior year audited annual gross revenue, whichever is higher. The other side is US dollar 150, or 1.23% of the operator's prior year audited gross annual revenue, whichever is higher. Five, regional PSP, Kampala region. US dollar is again 43,015, or 0.89% of the license prior year audited annual revenue, gross revenue, whichever is higher. Same applies US dollar 150, or the same. Six, regional PIP, into brackets other regions, US dollar 14,338, or 0.89% of the licensee prior year audited annual. And then here also is where US dollars 50,000, or 1.23% of the operator's prior year audited gross annual revenue, whichever is higher. Madam Chair, for PSP and PIP, as well as the factor of use of infrastructure for own services, among others, that would apply specifically to the regional players. The fees were revised further down by 60%. This resulted into the issuance of the Uganda Communications Fines and Regulations, Fees and Fines Amendment Regulations 2020, which significantly reduced the applicable fees as follows. Madam Chair, they are here. The NTO, first of all, have the number, the license category, license fee under the 2020 Amendment Regulation, license fee under 2019 Amendment Regulation. There are comparisons there. The NTO US dollar is 23,000 or 1.84 of the license fee prior year audited act. I am at page 10 of 17. I'd finished this one. I'm at page 12. I'm here. Okay, I'm at page 12. Yes, sir. Honorable Chairperson and members, the above revised fees represent a significant reduction in the fees from what had been earlier gazetted with the Uganda Communications Fees and Fine Regulations 2019. How do these fees compare with other countries? Of course, we have category, the country, the PIP, we have Uganda, you have Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and then the new fees. Madam Chair, this information is all there, unless if you want me to go into the detail. But you can look at the comparisons. I want to address myself to the note. 1. Compared to the East African countries, our fees of 0.89% are within the same range as Tanzania, which charges 0.8 of the GAR, and not far from Kenya, which charges 0.4% of the GAR. 2. The minimum license value in Uganda market is intended to address the discretionary tendencies such as trading in the license by speculators, the need to license only the players with the sufficient financial capacity to sustain, provide quality service in the country. Madam Chair, the other is the licensee. The license in Uganda are technological neutral. This means that once one is granted a PSP or a PIP license, he or she is allowed to invest and to provide a wide spectrum of service using the same license. This is not the case in the countries such as Ghana, where the licenses are still restricted to specific services such as a tower license, inland fiber cable license, cable landing license, internet stroke data service stroke, hotspot stroke Wi-Fi license. It should also be remembered that the new license fee for PSPs and PIP were derived in comparison to fees that are set for NTO, PIP and PSP licensee complete for the same market and can potentially provide the same service. Some NTOs have already paid US $100 million for 12 years, which means that in the spirit of promoting parity, it will be contrary to Section 52 of the Act for the ISPs to push to be treated in a special way to the disadvantage of their licensees. And Madam Chair, I want to make a point. Other licenses. Madam Chair, here I'm addressing myself to the MTN. MTN have just concluded the renewal of its license, and it paid $100 million for 12 years. And that, I think, the ministry should be really thanked for helping the country get $100 million, which is our work. I thank you. Okay, Madam Chair, I want to correct the record. I want to thank the committee for work well done. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, and I want to request you to continue supporting the committee and the ministry for work well done. Okay, 6.6% percentage change in fees in relation to current operational status and geographical presence. Madam Chair and honorable members, we note that in their petition, the ISPs argued that the new fees represent over 760% increase. This is actually not the case. Madam Chair, under the current regime, operators have been paying separately for both PSPs and PSPI and PIPs. In the new framework, however, where once operations require more than one license in the same region, say RPSPK and RPIPK, such a regional public service provider, Kampala. Are we okay there now? You forgive us, Madam Chair. The sector is technical, and sometimes we have to acknowledge and move with the technology, the advancement of the technology. Even us who are in social science, we are now trying to cope up to move with the technology. Yeah. So, Madam Chair, yes. No, we are trying to match up the technology. So, Madam Chair, such operators will pay only one license for fee value for both licenses. Moreover, the same operators have mainly been operating in Kampala and the surrounding areas. A new regional license is cognizant of this reality and seeks to allow operators to only obtain and pay for license in the regions where they are practically present or can afford in terms of investment. And Madam Chair, that point must be taken into consideration. A national license presents significant obligations under National Broadband Policy 2018 that include, among others, geographical presence in not less than 90% of Ugandans, which no single AISPs has achieved in the last 10 years when licensing framework allowed it. Madam Chair, look at this table here. We have the category, all the fees, new minimum fees, remarks. Madam Chair, I want to address myself to PIP license. That is, in the year, of course, it was November 2017, 300,000, 30,000. The new minimum fee, as of May 2020, it's telling us 43.0.1. The change is 7.5. The remarks, the operator Thera 2 holding a national license but with operations only in a specific geographical region under the news regime, even an option to only hold a regional license commensurate with the size of their operations and the investment to date. Number 2, the regional license for Kampala is the highest. For the other regions, the fee is 14,338 shilling US dollars, which is much lower. The levy, if you look at category 2, the levy, of course, is 2%, the old is 2%, the new is 2%, and even the change is 0, not changed. So why Kampala region has a fee of 43.01, while other regions have a fee of 14? The new policy aims to encourage investment in other parts of the country, which are underserved, while the Kampala region has a significant number of players. To discourage license only being Kampala-based has been in the last 20 years. Madam Chair, we must appreciate that every time some of you invite me to your constituencies, or even mine, Wuksu, I have challenges there, which I must acknowledge. But there's a lot of investment concentrated here. So the broadband policy entirely talks about this. According to the National Statistical Abstract and the background to the budget 2019, stock expenditure by the household, Kampala City and Central Region contributes 55%. The region, again, there's another table here. The region, of course, we look at the monthly expenditure by the household, then there's a percentage. If you look at these figures here entirely, it speaks for itself. Central, including Kampala City, 397,400, which is 21.7%. Kampala City is 608,400, which represents 33.2%. Eastern is 232,900, which represents 12.7%. Northern is 247,500, which represents 13.5%. Western is 341,900, which represents 18.7%. Market shares as of ISPs. Based on all aggregated financial statements for financial year, the ISPUA had a percentage share of GAR of 4%. Conclusion, Honorable Chair and members, it is our humble submission that we have already addressed the issues that the sector raised regarding the new regulation. The majority of the sector players are happy about the new fees and the licensing framework due to the stability and opportunities it will present in the sector and efficient allocation and use of resources. And a number of them have since duly submitted their applications for the appropriate license. The issue raised by the petitioners were already addressed in the Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Amendment Regulation 2020 after thorough consideration of the concerns from all the key stakeholders, including the consumers of the communication service. We call upon the committee and parliament to treat the present petition as a natural attempt by the petitioners to further delay the implementation of the new regulatory framework, which seeks to achieve a wide range of policy objectives. Honorable Chairperson and members, we wish to reiterate our unwavering commitment to facilitate the growth of the robust ICT sector in Uganda. My ministry shall continue to engage with the operators as on a case-by-case basis to address any challenges they may face during the transition to the new framework. Madam Chair, I would like to conclude by thanking you so much, a leader of this committee and members of this committee, for always supporting us as a sector. And we really want to commend you that where we are reaching, we need to move further so that we really make our country advance in terms of technology. I also want to appeal to our service providers to bear with us. And please, those at the ministry are open. Come, let's engage, let's interact, and we agree. This is what I expect from all sector players. I thank you so much, Madam Chair. My technical people are here. They will be able to help me address some of the technical issues which might be raised as far as this matter is concerned. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your presentation. It has been quite elaborate. And what I picked out of it is that the petitioner had a license which he would use across the country, in the entire country. But maybe because of one reason or another, they are within Kampala. And yet the license fee is stipulated as it is, because it is a national fees license. So for me, that is the summary of what I pick out of the minister's presentation.
Madam Chair.
Just a minute. If the technical people, the PS, if there is anything the minister left out that you want to correct, if I open up for the members. Just a minute, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, before that, the minister
needs to correct the record somewhere also.
I don't see them.
The attachment, you said you are.
Can I request for annexure of a map? Was it, there's a map? Where is it? There's
Madam
an
Chair, I
extra
just
of
want
a
the
map.
minister to correct some record before
Yes,
we
Honorable.
can come in.
Yes, Honorable.
Madam Chair, on page 14 of 17, the minister actually told us that some NTOs, we have one or two, about 2 NTOs, but in his record was saying some NTOs have paid up. Yet in this case, of course, he referred to MTN. MTN's license was due, and it is only MTN that has paid, one NTO. So I would like the minister to correct this record where he said some NTOs. If he can give us more than MTN, any other NTO, maybe we can leave that on the record. But he needs to correct this record.
Yes, Honorable Minister, expand on your
I want to request that the word some, and I've underlined in my statement on 14. I want to say MTN. MTN has already paid. That is, let me go on record like that. If it is Madam Honorable Member, I want to.
But if you say MTN has already paid, does it mean other operators are operating freely without paying?
No, Madam
you need
Chair,
to qualify your statement.
Madam Chair, the moment their license expire, there is a process which is duly stipulated within the law for them to renew, and that's what happens. And I hope I'm correct there, Mr. PS. Yes.
Okay, I had given the PS and then the UCCED. If there's anything you want to add before I come to members.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, through my minister. Honorable Chair, Honorable members, the minister has said it all, but I just want to emphasize, with your permission, that
you have the permission already.
Yes, it is not fair to say that there was no consultation and we did not engage with the ISP Association. As the minister has presented on page 10 of 17, where he clearly stated and gave comparisons what fees had been prescribed. I just want to emphasize that the fee that was prescribed for ISP category in 2019 was $150,000, and that was revised downwards on the regulations we are referring to $43,015. I just wanted to bring that out, that indeed the initial fee which they challenged and came to our offices and we agreed that should go down was $150,000, and it was reduced. That was for national.
They are here for national, because region, they are not here for region. So that implies that it was 300.
If it was 300, then it went down to 86,000. That's the position. So I just want to emphasize that the commission as well as the ministry indeed listened to them and reduced the figure as they sought.
Yes, EDUCC. But when will this lady be confirmed, Honorable Minister? You are overmaking her act. You know she's a woman.
Madam Minister,
Madam Chair,
it is through the powers.
I'm not a minister, I'm the chair.
Madam Chair, the powers to confirm the ED is vested on me, and I want, and I'm doing it.
She has a nice smile.
And
okay.
I want to say that she's within the period of confirmation, because we all know, and actually I wanted to make it on record that I hope it's her first time officially appearing before the Committee of Parliament.
No, she has come before. That's why we are complaining.
So, okay, I want to thank her for work well done. Madam Chair, leave the matters to me. We are handling as the Millennium Sector. Thank you.
Procedure, Madam Chair, procedure.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, the Honorable Minister has just presented this document. We needed to give a thought to it, then he can invite the technical team, his backup, to fill in. So I would suggest that we straight go into giving reactions on this document, then the technical team can ably
Can I be allowed to chair, because I am just following exactly the same procedure.
That is the procedure matter, Madam Chair, that I'm raising.
It's okay. It's okay. I just asked the technical team that if there is anything the minister has left out and you feel you should add up. If there is nothing, it is to their discretion to keep quiet and say I have nothing to add. And then I come to you members. Just be patient. I am with you. Yes, Edie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, honorable members, for the opportunity accorded to us. I just wanted to add what the minister and the PS have ably presented, just to emphasize that previously the NTO, the National Telecommunications Operator license, was a preserve of two operators, MTN and UTL. Now we have opened it up so that other operators can come into that space and get that license based on whoever is interested, because before they would not be accorded that opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. She has added a very good statement. So now, members, the floor is yours. I start with here, we go straight around. I start with Honorable Tinker, we follow the line.
Madam Chair, I will take the opportunity that you have given me. One, the minister in his introduction, he is asking us to stick to the petition. Whereas I would be inclined to agree with him. When he's going as he submits, he's leading us to other issues. You are saying, let us not open the cap, but you have opened it. So we are seeing everything that is inside, and as members of Parliament, when you open, we have to ask you, what about this one? What about this one? I think you allow us to do our work. When you are not satisfied with our work, you will run it court. There is that other option. Madam Chair, when you go to, I think for me, let me ask major questions. There is a fundamental question which the petitioners came with here. They are dissatisfied with the licensing regime. One, that you telling them to apply for only one license is very unfair on their side. 2, even the fees that you are charging are too high.
I want to correct, I'm not the one charging, it is the ministry.
No, I am now referring.
Because you were pointing at me, so it is your eyes were this side.
You are the chairperson.
I'm not the minister, I'm not the ED as well.
You are the chairperson, because I have no business in even looking at them.
Okay.
I have to address the chair. When you see me talking, and even a point, I'm trying to address the chair. This is, I think this is the fundamental question we need to listen to. They tried, that's why both of them, these technical people, they are very, very bright. They are trying to bring the answer and emphasizing, when you see the PS and the ED, what they submitted is what brought the petitioners here. What the 2 things they submitted on is what brought the petitioners here. And for us, we are, even if you say you claim that you consulted them, finally who fixed the price? Are they the ones who fixed the price, or it is you? We want to hear that one from the minister. And if they are the ones, bring the evidence that they fixed it. Because if they submitted, if you call the meeting and they made a submission, that means they brought a written document. And if they brought a written document and it is their submission, then what else shall we deal with? It is what we want. We want that evidence. My last thing that I would want to, the information, you, when you are saying you are saying, you are alleging that these petitioners, when you give them a license, they are doing what we call trading in a license. They are speculators. They have little money. Do you have that evidence? And if somebody applies for that license, how long is he supposed to hold it in terms of license without going on the ground? You as a ministry, don't you have a measure of checking if somebody applies for something and spends a year without using it? Without using it, what action do you take as a ministry and the regulators? Because this should even not be here. This should not even be your submission. You should be telling us these ones are removed their license because they were speculators.
Madam Chair, I want to thank you so much for chairing this meeting. I want to say I had lots of hope in Honorable Ogwang when he entered that ministry, and I'm one of the people who expected him to cause serious changes, and if he can fail on this one of the weak crying for their space, then I have no doubt he may not cause the change that we expected him to. Madam Chair, allow me begin with a few clarifications. And the clarification I'm getting it from the minister and the ISP providers. On page 6, Honourable Minister, you talked about the 2019 licensing regime. I want to get a clarification. Was it laid before Parliament, the 2019 regulations? 2, have they been in operation? If they have not been in operation, I want to say this is a gimmick, because you've used that make comparisons, yet you would have used the 2017 regulations. I want to get clarification from the internet service providers. On page 4, it has been alleged that on your owner code, you chose only to provide data services. Yet, the license allows you to provide both voice and data. I need a clarification there because it is in the minister's statement. Then on page 14, it has been put to you that you only operate in Kampala. On page 14, you only operate in Kampala, yet you want national licenses. I want a clarification to you to confirm to us whether you only operate in Kampala or you have been operating or you're operating elsewhere in the country.
Procedure.
Those are the two clarifications, then I make my
procedure right to ask that question? Because he's asking the other people when we are engaging in the minister.
No, Madam Chair.
No, they are just listening first.
No, not for this meeting.
Yes.
Not for this meeting.
But I am wondering, what is the interest of the members? You know, members, we have to be
may have.
I am wondering
don't suspect the members, Madam Chair. I would not tread that road of where you suspect members. My issue is just a procedural matter. We can have time to engage with them. The questions at this particular time, we are asking the minister, who has just finished the presentation. The other people, we can have another time to ask them, but not to combine the questions.
That is why I wanted members to handle this thing in a very neutral way.
We are still doing the right thing.
Honorable Tinkasemide. Honorable Fred raised a procedural matter.
Or maybe let me request the internet service providers to step out a little.
No, Madam Chair. No. He raised a procedural matter.
Yes.
Before this meeting began, we agreed let them be around. Why are they around? For us to seek clarification from them.
That is what you say.
That's what you say. And that is
are we seeking because this
so
is
the clarification I am yes,
because this question should be directed to the minister.
I have sought clarification from the minister on what I wanted to seek from the minister, and I have sought clarification from them on what I wanted to ask from them.
Chair, now this is how we are going to proceed.
Chair,
just a minute.
I needed
just a minute. This is how we are going to proceed. For now,
why don't they give a comment?
I just want to guide.
Madam,
I'm not ruling, I'm guiding.
Yes. I would make a contribution, then you guide. You don't want to contribute after you guide.
Because it is for Honorable Samba. I wanted to give.
There are many people holding the same views. Guide us properly.
That is what I want to do.
Somebody is submitting. The other group has to listen. They have to listen and jot down.
Now,
because that's the reason why they are here. If you give them an opportunity to respond, then they should be able to respond at an appropriate time. But they are not going to respond in the minister's time.
That is the guidance.
And I
don't want this meeting to turn into a ping pong of sorts. I want to guide this meeting. I want to guide in this way. That this one is the minister's meeting. We had courtesy to allow the petitioner to attend. It's okay. Yes. Theirs is to note down the important points. They are going to have an opportunity to answer back to the ministers.
Yes. That's okay for me.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that's okay. I'm not saying they responded now. Actually, I was continuing to make my submission.
Because the question should be guided to the minister for now.
No, this one is for them when they are responding.
Okay.
When they are responding, they must tell them. Not now. Not
Chair,
now.
You wanted to say something?
Madam Chair,
Just, he wanted to say something?
No, it was about this.
Well, it was about the same. Because I didn't want to submit after my chair, but I was of the view that if a member has an issue that would also want the petitioners to note, they can mention it. But for now, we are reacting or responding to communication from the minister and UCC. And later on, there will be a right of rebuttal or another rejoinder from the petitioners. That's the procedure even in court. When you go to court, you make your first application, the person you're accusing responds.
No, we are not in the court, but the same rules are applied.
The same rules. So that afterwards there should be a rejoinder. That is the natural way it works.
You have seen it on the house.
Yes, members, we are moving well. We are moving well. For now, we are concentrating on the minister and his presentation. Any issues that we need to raise with the petitioner, we will, during the time we give them, they might have to come back here tomorrow, we shall give them time. So then any issues we need to raise, we shall raise with them. I want us to exhaust the minister and his team thoroughly.
Madam Chair, thank you so much for your guidance. Madam Chair, on page 9, and before my comment is on page 9, but before I come to page 9, these petitioners came to us having failed to convince the ministry to take care of their requirement. When we met them, Honorable Minister, they indicated to us that they have been operating in this country, providing data connection for the last 20 years, which you have also revealed in your statement here, that what you're blaming them is for their failure to cover 90% of the country. And now you prefer, the ministry prefers to get an operator. On page 9, the ministry prefers to get an operator who can cover 90% of the country. This tells me one thing, that you have not cared for their investments, which they have been doing within this country, because they are providing data connections. So because for you have a desire to have an operator that covers 90% of the country, you do not want to care about the space and the services these people have been providing, because you have clearly indicated it, that what you're blaming them is for failure to do. Honourable Minister, in other countries, you must be aware, I know you're new, I'm going to accuse you as though you've been there for some time, but you hold the docket anyway. In other countries, the big players are there. The small players are also what? Are also exiting.
Maybe if I may help you, Honorable Samba, to bring out that point very well. We are aware that the ministry, that UCC also licensed NITAU to do data connections.
And the other electricity.
Yes, and UETCL. And these people, NITAU is given, of course it's a government entity, for it has the mandate, it's more, it can afford to go across the entire country. UETCL also goes across the entire country. Now these people, the petitioner is a private person. And he's holding the same license as
NITAU.
Don't you think it is a mistake on your side, ministry, to give a similar license, yet knowing that this person is being overcharged compared to the other one who has even incentives from government?
Madam Chair, thank you so much.
has a whole vote.
Madam Chair, thank you so much. Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister, as a Parliament, we are here to protect the weak. That is why we are picking. No, we are not. Your interest is protect this one who is going to provide you 90%. But this one has been in the market Why, when you didn't have that strong person you're looking for, he was here connecting businesses, a private entity laying his own fiber to connect businesses out there. By a stroke of a pen, by a stroke of regulations, you're happy to say to wish him away. Honorable Minister, have you thought about the compensation? I need you to clarify to me what will happen to the fibers they have been laying. What will happen to the infrastructure they have constructed over a period of 20 years before you wish them away? I would plead to you, Honorable Minister, to work like in other countries. In Kenya, the ISPs are there. Even UK, the biggest ISPs exist. They continue connecting businesses. Can I give you
some information?
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you so much. In addition to that, the information I want to provide, NITAU, which has some incentives, has which is actually government and has taxpayers' money. Its cost is right now at about $80. It chose to benchmark the big players because MTN is at 150 and I think at 150. So NITAU chose to benchmark these two big players and put its cost at $80. Yet these other ISPs, actually with even the markup, they are ranging between 35 to 50. So it is a total disadvantage to the ISPs, the other players in the market. That is the information I wanted to provide.
Madam Chair, thank you very much for the information. Madam Chair, Madam Chair,
yes.
I want to wind up. I want to take you to the page of comparison. They have given us very good information.
Which page?
Oh, very good. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you.
Page what?
Page 12. The ministers compared us, Uganda, versus the East African countries, Kenya, Tanzania. I think he has compared two countries, Kenya and Tanzania. In comparison with us, Madam Chair, Kenya charges 0.4%, or 37,000, whichever is higher. For us, the proposal is 86,000. Madam Chair, I think you can see the unfairness.
Yeah, I see it.
37, and here it is 86,000, or whichever is higher. I'm seeing Tanzania charging only 0.8%. And for them it is standard 0.8%. And I think if you asked these ISPs to charge them and say, charge them like Tanzania and say, give us 0.89%, and you stop there, I think they would be much happier than this. When you look at for PIP and PSP, Kenya is charging 0.4 and 750. Madam Chair, you go on the proposals. 86,000 for both. PIP, you pay 86. PSP, you pay 86,000. Actually, I'm not even the minister.
You're presenting like it is.
In our regulations, Madam Chair, PIP is charged differently from PSP. Each is 86,000. Madam Chair, that means I wasn't even ashamed to present this comparison. This comparison puts us at a different...
I need to be protected, Madam Chair.
You're protected, Honorable Minister.
Why am I saying this?
Yes.
giving information, which is, it's entirely my ministry which should support free access to information. It's entirely a preserve of the constitution. It's entirely a preserve of the laws of this country.
And
so
I want to thank you.
Why don't you thank me for that? Then again, you're beginning to say.
I want to thank you.
Which information can be explained? I thank you so much.
Don't overpress the minister.
Okay.
He gave you free information, and now you're actually using his own information.
Actually, I'm going to use information.
Because he
Very
is
good
shot higher
information.
than even the neighbors. Yes, Honorable Tinker.
Praise the minister.
Yes.
He is the one who presented the petition on behalf of the petitioners on the floor of the House.
Yes.
When he sees the minister attempting not to yield to the prayers, then he has to praise.
He's pressing well. I encourage him.
And I'm using, Madam Chair, I'm using.
Yes.
It's not that the minister is my friend. I would have even pressed
And
him
even
more.
to correct you, Honorable Samba, the
Yes.
PIP is 10,000. The old one was 10,000. PSP was 30,000.
Yes, yes,
Why did you make them the same amount?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Continue.
Madam Chair, this is where the unfairness, which must be corrected by Honorable Ogwang. He's a good man.
Yes.
For a record, we know we know him.
Yes.
For a record, Madam Chair, when you compare Kenya, you add 37,000 plus 750, it goes around 38,000 US dollars for both. Madam Chair, here it is 170,000 for both. Yes, 172,000 for both. Madam Chair, I'm assuming a situation that they are retaining their licenses. I'm assuming a situation that if they are to retain their 2 licenses, instead of paying the 40,000 they've been paying, they are going to be paying 172,000, Madam Chair, which is very unfair. 86 plus 86, that is what is appearing.
You have a strong case, my dear.
Madam Chair, I want to put it to UCC that their interest is to edge these people out of business, so that their preferred player, the NT who gives them 100 million, as they have said expressly here, is the one who remains in the market. Madam Chair, the NTO, the MTN provides, they have clearly stated it on they are saying the SISPs are percentages, only 0.4%. It tells you that the 96% is held by this MTN and Airtel. They are only holding 0.4%, and this 0.4%, UCC wants it gone. They don't want to see them holding it. They want to see MTN, they want to see their Airtel play in the market without these guys. Madam Chair, that is very, very unfortunate. The 4% I'm talking about, the market share,
Honorable Patrick, please wind up 1 minute.
Madam Chair, it's on page 16. The minister has indicated based on the financial statement for ISPAO, the percentage is 4%. Madam Chair, I want to conclude by requesting this committee to prevail over the ministry to come up with the licenses which are similar in the region. These are investors. You push them out of it and they are going to go to Kenya. They are going to go elsewhere. We will be losing them. It is our children who lose the jobs. It is our engineers who are working with them. We cannot allow that, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Let a specific category be created as their prayer, and a fair price be charged on them. I'm not saying that they remain at 30-10, but UCC must come up with a fair fee which is comparing in the region. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Well said. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, the presenters, the Minister. Mine will be very brief, and I want to go straight to page 9. Because we have learned from the petitioners, I think last week, one of their complaints was that they were to take either or of the licenses they were holding and yet they have invested in both lines of business. So you are saying on page 9 that no operator will be allowed to hold 2 national licenses, and I'm not clear what evil you are trying to cure. It did not come out in your presentation. What is the problem there that you are trying to cure that prevents the operators, if they so wish, to hold the 2 licenses? I think that one needs to come out very clearly. Now on page 10, Mr. Permanent Secretary, I want to repeat something you said, so you better listen out to me because you may deny it. You said on the charges of national PIP of 86,030, this figure was sought by the petitioners. You still stand by that? They sought for it. Was it their proposal? And you gave it to them.
Madam Chair, with your permission.
Yes.
I was very categorical. I see after they sought our intervention. I didn't say they sought a figure.
Well, that is what you were referring to?
Yes, I was referring after they sought our intervention. The figure was 300,000 to 86.
But also, maybe to add on what you're saying, Honorable, yes. If you're saying that it came to 86, and for you, you're giving a standard percentage of 0.89% of the total gross annual gross audited gross revenue. What if the revenues fluctuate? Why then are you maintaining this flat, whichever is higher?
That implies when they get little revenue, they have to pay the 86.
You see, that is not fair.
But earlier on that page,
information on that, yes. I'm going to the PS. Within your submission, you say after the initial proposal of 300, the petitioner sought your intervention and you intervened. Does it mean originally you just came up with this random figure of 300 before consulting them? So that you throw a huge figure in the air?
No, they were used to huge figures from MTN.
300 should have actually been part of a consultative process.
Thank you very much for that information.
They were used to huge figures from MTN.
Looking at the same page, Madam Chair,
yes.
Area in the, on top, where the ministry says they would apply specifically to regional players, the fees were revised further down by 60%. Now, what I wanted you to clarify on is whether you have a formula, and if you had meetings with the stakeholders, did you agree on this 60%? Is there room that it can still come down to accommodate them as players in the same industry? What is the magic about 60%? Who came up with it if you were in a meeting?
Thank you, Honorable Nakate.
I haven't finished.
Stop over delaying to finish.
You, my friend. This is a petition, but this other one you addressed it on page that one. I would not go to the regional charges, but on page 13, Honorable Minister, where you said the license in Uganda technology neutral. In that same paragraph, you went on to say this is not the case in countries such as Ghana, where the licenses are still restricted to specific services, such as tower licenses. All these licenses you are listing down, I need a clarification whether they are exclusive of one another, because it's not clear. They can be restricted, but should one want to hold 3 or 4 of those licenses, are they still denied? Is that the direction you want to take?
Okay, and thank you. At least you reserve some bullets. Finally. That's the last point. Okay.
In fact, let me leave it.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Honorable Nakate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I pray that I will have the strength to speak because I'm in a lot of pain.
I pray that you have the strength. Honorable Samba, give her a bottle of water.
Honorable Chair.
Sit down. Yeah. No.
Honorable Chair, without wasting time. I'll get to what the ED tried to. Thank you so much. I'll get what the ED tried to clarify. That actually now they are opening up the space to allow other NTOs. Madam Chair, these MTN and UTL have always had the preserve, right? Just like she said it. It is now over 10 years since 2006 when funds were being given to MTN and UTL to expand the network in the infrastructure so that other ISPs can come on board and utilize and lease. They have not looked at the interconnection issues where MTN has always been a bully, and then they did not even audit MTN to find out that for the fees we have been giving you, because these fees have been being paid by the ISPs upfront, 2% of the gross annual revenues, not even 2% of the services, but gross, paid upfront and given to MTN. MTN has instead been investing in its own priority areas, and UCC as a regulator has been looking. So this fee was levied because it was a charge to the ISPs because UCC knew that there were areas that the ISPs would not reach. And UCC chose to say that, okay, give us this levy so that where you're not able to go, we can give other big players to put that big infrastructure, then you can always lease from that infrastructure. UCC instead chose to look and gave money, and MTN chose to invest in its own priority areas. So I don't know why UCC has, I think with impunity, not audited MTN to the extent that even up to now we have coverage issues. They are all grappling with issues of coverage, yet this fund, they know it, they have been getting this fund up front and they have not been utilizing it. Madam Chair, there has always been, I don't want UCC to come up and say, like the minister was saying in his report here, that the licenses were given to these ISPs to operate in the entire country, but they chose to be maybe in the central business districts, right? And they didn't go out. But the environment that was said, they were looking on as these big players were bullying the ISPs. And then the other thing, these ISPs have not been able to move out. When you look at just like I said, the NBI, it has a backbone, but it is very expensive. There are some other vendors actually, some of the ISPs have chosen to go for some other vendors in the market for this infrastructure. But why? So before you actually crucify them, that why I gave you licenses to operate in the entire country and you've not looked into the real issues. You've not asked why. This is the pain that I have, Madam Chair. You have not gotten the real issues of why these people have not gone into this. Actually, let me address my mind to the regional issue. The regional issue also takes me into the spectrum fees. The spectrum fees have always been prohibitive and given to a few operators. The other ISPs have chosen now to use the general bandwidth, which is the public, which is usually clogged and does not offer a quality service. So you have your work to do. You should not come here and say that the ISPs have not deliberately refused to expand, yet you have not put an enabling environment. Madam Chair, I have a lot of concerns for UCC. For this spectrum issue, I even doubt if this thing they are saying that the regional would work. If these ISPs prefer to use the public whatever, where it is very hard to restrict them to a region. By the way, if they choose to leave your spectrum and they deal with the public whatever, it is unregulated, and you know it very well. That whatever area is not regulated.
Let me give you information. Assuming they get a contract, I don't know very well, but assuming they get a contract with Centenary Bank, and Centenary Bank gives one ISP business to connect to them, to provide them with the internet services. Centenary Bank has branches across. Why would you feel bothered by this ISP providing internet connection to Centenary Bank across? Why would it be a problem? Because that's where they want to close them out. That implies that you can only provide Centenary Bank in Kampala only.
Thank you, Honorable, for that information. I'm foreseeing a problem with this regional license fees because you yourself, UCC, you don't have the capacity to confine people to a region. You do not have, because I must say you do not have the capacity, because even we have seen it all. We have tried to see it, we have gone through your reports, we even don't have authentic reports. When you came up with this report,
qualify that one, that particular.
Okay, Madam Chair, because
qualify
I have
that
reasons
one.
Why.
That particular one of authentic reports, please. I beg that you withdraw that one.
Madam Chair, before I withdraw that, you know that most of the reports we come from UCC.
We have rules of procedure which guide us in these meetings, and sometimes as a ministry, sometimes we sit here and listen. But still, the UCC, first of all, is an agency with an act of this parliament. For UCC not to have audited reports when you appropriate
authentic,
money,
not
when you are the very committee which appropriates, oversees, and oh my God, it leaves a lot to be desired, Madam Chair.
That's why I requested
we really need
to withdraw
we
that.
move within the decorum of our rules of
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please withdraw and proceed.
With all due respect to my Honorable Minister, I think okay, in the interest of time, and I withdraw that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I will still have to make my point. That most of the reports that we have come across, just like I was going through this, they put disclaimers. If you want to make meaning out of the information from UCC, you're not sure if they really, you'll make an informed opinion or decision, because there are disclaimers everywhere. Even this one where I was trying to look at the market survey, everything, they will tell you that anything an opinion arising out of our document, it is, So that is why actually I had come up with that, because I could not go into the market studies that they had actually put up. Madam Chair, I must say, largely, I have many concerns, but because we are first addressing ourselves to the issues around the petition, the grounds, I will address myself to the grounds. But I must say that these fees are prohibitive in nature. We have, what is happening around the world. You know about this pandemic, and in this very period of the pandemic, you chose not to to factor in many other factors for you to come up with such fees. Madam Chair, the minister did not address himself to some of the requests that were put in this petition, the prayers. So I wanted to speak briefly about one of the prayers in regard to the fees. That Madam Chair, we have this pandemic here, the COVID is here, and it is not going tomorrow. We are still trying. We are trying to handle it. So in one of the prayers, I think it was part 2 and 3, the ISPs requested that yes, as we try to negotiate the fees, let us also be mindful that we have this pandemic here, and the only way for us to have more internet penetration is to ease on the fees, or even these regulations.
Can you read the prayer verbatim?
The prayers verbatim on petitioner's submission, page 2. Recognizing the effects of COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant lockdown have led to the loss of revenues by 73% through service cancellations, suspensions, and downgrades. Therefore, the ISPAU prays that any increment in the license fees be postponed to the next financial year 2021-22 to allow the subsector businesses to recover from this downturn. Madam Chair, and they are praying that let the matter be considered urgently, as we are left with a few days to the new financial year. Madam Chair, when I was trying to study the business, Madam Chair, yes, when I was trying to study the way these people operate in the telecom sector, I'm not in the telecom sector, I'm just from another field. But I realized that if there is what they call the rule of 70 or 75, When you do not have business in the first months of the year, January, February, blah, blah, and it is about maybe September or July, just know that there is no business. You know what happened in this country when tourism, when COVID came in. So even as we try to revise these fees, I strongly say that they have a point. They may not apply immediately because of this pandemic. Most of them have actually had a lot of cancellation. Madam Chair, as I try to wind up for the first phase of my submission, I want to say that these fees are reiterate that these fees are largely prohibitive, because when I try to look through the same fees, the same regulations under the content delivery, in this pandemic period, when we are supposed to bring innovation on board, many young people to have as more players as we can, I looked at the fees and of the content even for single stream, when it is $40,400. How do you expect somebody to come up? I want to break it down. If you have the initial fees, the initial application fees of $2,500, then you have the subscription fees of $17,600, the annual fees. Then you have, that is for a single stream. Single stream in this case will mean that one wants to deliver even education materials to, like in this pandemic, I want to come up with some content that I want education materials maybe for primary 6 or what, but most of these young people who are innovative cannot come on board because of these prohibitive fees. I totaled up what they can pay for them to get on board, and it's over $40,000.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, for now, I'll end my first phase of submission, but I have many concerns with me.
Thank you.
I'll be coming in.
Thank you. But let's also allow the vice. He has not said much. Yes.
The honorable member was relating those fees to this
COVID-19
of this bill. I did not understand how the prayer of these people came in, because we have not interrogated this percentage. We don't know, we don't have an audit of their performance.
Madam Chair, let me briefly respond to that. I actually, when I read...
Because I also see here, they say our subsector also contributed 200 billion.
Madam
200 billion in taxes.
Madam Chair, let me just respond to that briefly, because I have something from the financials, the revenues from UCC, a report from UCC, where it was giving some growth in the sector and attributed the growth to the many, while most revenue, let me read it verbatim, while most of the revenue growth may be due to new activity on mobile money and new subscriptions on cellular services, some of the growth in revenues may be attributed to the seasonal demand associated with the December holidays and many others. So when we looked at this pandemic coming in that period, we knew that the revenues had fallen down and UCC could not be able to
this particular case, the pandemic does not apply much because
Madam Chair,
this is the scenario. No, what we would pray for, we would request for them to have the regional fees, the structure regionally, because the East African fees, if you look at Kenya, Tanzania, we would request for them to push it down so that they are at par, not as exorbitant as they are currently in Uganda. They should bring it down so that they also par with the rest of, because I know they benchmark with other countries. And so they should be in tandem. And I know you subscribe to some of these associations. So when you're seated in those associations, it is called what? That one you go for? IACO. Yes, when you go to IACO, there is a standard fee you're requested to put. So at least we shall on that basis. But for this COVID, especially on this particular topic, it does not.
Their prayer number 1 is what she was submitting on. Their prayer number 2, I think
the minister did not say anything.
They did not even attempt to minister.
Yeah,
he just abandoned it.
No, that one we shall tell us why he abandoned it. Ask him to.
So
and he has to explain to us.
I do not want the members to stray and start interrogating a petition
on issue 1,
issue 2. Issue 2, when we don't have facts of where they are getting the 73%.
That one can be handled. That one.
So that is a good one. Let me allow the vice. Yes, the minister will respond. Let me allow the vice. Then I also have a few key issues I want to raise, which I want the attention of UCC and the ministry seriously on. Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I also want to thank the minister and the PS and the technical team headed by Engineer Irene of UCC. And I also want to thank the petitioners for having faith in Parliament and coming over to raise their issues. Madam Chair, I want to continue. I think this is the first time we're having fully our new minister for the ICT. He was a very good man. And many members were missing him.
No, he's still good.
And he's still a very good man. And I think the change we are seeing is that we now have more time with this minister.
Actually, you should say that this committee was suffering from a hangover of ministers. Ministers used not to attend. And we are about to throw the PS out of this meeting.
They wanted him to communicate to God what was happening.
Madam Minister, Honorable Chair, point of order.
Yes, point of order.
So what we're saying is, as a committee, we are happy with the direction things are taking in the ministry. And as usual, you can always count on the support of this committee in handling issues, while we also play our oversight role in ensuring that there's stability and progress in the sector. Madam Chair, I wanted to quickly give first a preamble. I think this government and Parliament seriously value the services that Ugandans need, especially using technology or using internet, and that's why within the ministry, this Parliament gives...
You're restrained from campaigning, Honorable Chair.
Yeah, this Parliament gives the ministry a fund called Innovation Fund to encourage many young
Ugandans, some of them don't have jobs, to venture into this field of technology, and I think even areas like data provision and all of that falls within this innovation fund. So government is not only collecting money, but even is injecting more money into this sector, because we call it an enabler. Everybody going forward will need ICT platforms to be able to progress, to make business, and also to offer service to Ugandans. And so in that spirit, we expect that as there's growth, we're witnessing growth, and regulations are coming on. These regulations are progressive and encourage more investment in the sector.
That said, I wanted to give only 3 points. The first one, I noted with a bit of surprise that the ISPs occupy only 4% in this market. 4%. And we have players, I don't know whether they are more than 5, who are occupying 96%. So some of the challenges that you have enumerated here, that are broad challenges with regulations and all of that, I am fairly doubtful if those challenges were brought by the guys who are in the bracket of 4% or the players who are in the bracket of 96%. So looking at it, Honorable Chair, naturally, if the sector is having challenges with the regulations and other things, then a greater share of that challenge is not coming from the 4%. And so to focus on the 4% and probably come with very aggressive regulations that may see them kicked out of the sector in my view, it would leave a lot to be desired. That was one observation I wanted to make. How come the problems that have been enumerated here that affects the implementation of the broadband policy and all of these seem to be coming from this presentation, coming from the 4% market share in this field? Number two, in the spirit of the East African Federation, I was previously a member of the East African Community, East African Community Committee of Parliament. We are pushing across board. That's why even we have a minister for East Africa to harmonize our standards. They might not exactly be identical, but the spirit, on principle, we would want to that a Uganda can easily go to Kenya and meet or be able to fit with minimum challenges. So when I saw the rates that have been presented here, the Honourable Minister chose to only present for 2 countries and wanted, and I hope this is accurate, Honourable Members, for Rwanda, for the same services that ISPs are offering, Rwanda annual fees is $2,000. For Tanzania, it's $30,000. For Kenya, is $1,000. For Uganda, now it had been 40,000, but with the proposal separating the 2 licenses, if they are to maintain the 2 licenses, it goes to 171. 86 times 2 is what? 160 something. Yeah. 172. Or around that. I don't want to commit myself to that figure. I'm not adding. Now, this is the regional figures. Now, when you go to the aggregate value of these licenses in the region, Rwanda, the aggregate value will go to 55,000. Tanzania will go to 165,000. Kenya will go to 6,000. And Uganda will go to 430,000. 430,000. So, I was wondering if, what is the motivation? I know where we need to go, and we want to support ourselves to go there, but we have to tread with caution and allow growth. Because if you are climbing, going up, and then you miss 5 steps at the goal, you are likely to crash. So, we want to see why the disparity is so wide. We don't want to be the same because there are some charges. I know that Uganda is benefiting and the other fellows are charging lower. So, Madam Chair, on the regional fees, I am convinced the rates we have here is a total departure from the harmonization principle.
And Chair, maybe to add on what you're saying, and given the fact that the ICT sector is really grossly underfunded, if you look at the priorities of government in the budget estimates, ICT is given 0.4%. Yes. Now, if you look at these exorbitant fees and licenses levied on the sector, it means that then you're crippling the sector. First, it is not properly funded, but also secondly, you yourself, you're overcharging the sector, you're crippling it. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. My second last point, Madam Chair, is I also felt, Honourable Minister, the table you presented, you chose, you should have given us comparison reflecting 3 regulations. There is a 2017, which is still in force up to now, as we speak. There is the proposal of 2019, which was gazetted but was never laid. And so you cannot run with it and say and wave it around that because it did not pass the test. the constitutional test and the parliamentary practice that require, and the UCC Act that require that regulation first is laid, and it takes 30 days here. If no issue is raised, then it is operational. So to now present it, to depict a situation where you had a grind down from a higher fee to a much lower one, in my view, technically, is not accurate, because the other one had not yet been laid on the floor of Parliament, and so we cannot use it as a measure of the reduction that was made. And so I would recommend that on our records, the figures that should be comparable are the ones of 2017 and the ones of 2020, because the ones of 2017 are the ones that have been operational and had gone through Parliament. The last point I would want to make, because others have been covered, is that there is the issue of duplication. And if there's anything that this committee is very concerned about, and I think we are going to pursue it later more, I think the PS knows this, is that there is a lot of duplication. Government is also spending money, because different government agencies with licenses go on digging, laying fiber, doing all of this. We need to discourage this. And indeed, the broadband policy is discouraging this. But my view is, it's the discouraging discouraging duplication or encouraging sharing of this platform is not in the license structure. Because I might have even a license given, but that does not give me the right to go and dig through where there is already existing infrastructure. So the argument you're giving here that this policy is giving these people both licenses would encourage duplication. I don't think so. I still think even with MTN, even with NITAU, or whoever will have the financial muscle to be given a license, that does not tantamount to them going to dig anywhere and anyhow because they have a license. There should be a second tier or a third tier to this license that then prohibits them from going to continue laying fiber where there is already one existing. And this calls for expediting of the regulation that should guide us on how infrastructure will be shared.
Can I give some information briefly on that? Actually, the regulations should be very clear when it comes to issues of duplication. Even the regulations should be clear, and even to the ones that are owned by the government. Because as we talk now, we spent a lot of money as taxpayers' money. We already had UTL with easy cable, undersea cable. Then NITAU, you went ahead, the regulator was looking, and then NITAU is now using SICOM.
And then UETCL
cable. Yeah. Then the UCC, the regulator was looking. I'm sorry, I have to bring out this information. He looked at UTA, rather he looked at Airtel. Do you remember that time when Airtel laid off most of the engineers? They had gotten their own monitoring unit, which is they had their own C cables. Now everything is being monitored from India. But remember, even this very government or committee, we enacted that law, data privacy, data protection and privacy. We don't know how UCC is able to regulate Airtel when they are monitoring us when the base is even there in India. So you should come out tough on the regulations while knowing there are also some other laws in place. Thank you. That is the information I wanted to provide.
Yes. So Chair, as I finish, I think we'll need another session to understand this issue of sharing.
I thought we did that.
It was not conclusive because we realized it was a cross sector.
We did it like the duplication thing was a big one.
The minister was not there. The PS was there. We agreed on something. Refer to we agreed on something.
We were supposed to have another meeting.
Because I remember asking.
It was not conclusive.
Out of my personal experience, as much as you are talking about sharing, if issues like pricing are not solved,
that's why you need regulations.
I will still desire to have my own infrastructure. if issues of quality of service, I want to give you an example. I was hiring, I had put my radio station on the MTA. Their generator would go off and they would take a day. I would go off the whole day, off air, until I said, no sense, I don't need this. So until those things are solved. You get me?
Honorable Tinka, let me give you some information. I think the ministry has come up with some regulations to guide onto the interconnection and access. Maybe it has tried to address some of the issues in that line. How you relate with those other players. How you, I think there are some other regulations that are in place to ensure that. They are here. Only that this meeting is addressing petitions. Okay, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, so the spirit with which I saw the issue of duplication being presented, as if it is arising from the licenses, the license structure which is given, I don't think that's correct. The point here is, once you're issuing licenses to service providers or infrastructure providers, they must have those conditionality clauses that do not allow them to go on duplicating. Getting a license does not give them a license to go and duplicate work or fail to share. So I think that we would clarify. And the point made by Fred, I am also trying to see the mischief you are trying to cure by separating the two licenses and declining. Even someone wanted to afford the two after you separated them, throwing them. You have not entirely closed it out, but you are saying if you now want both, you pay 21 million. What is the mischief? Because this is 4% space these people are occupying. If there might be growth, they might go to 10%, they might go to 15%, but that will be many years from now. So if they had both, or if you combined the two licenses as it had been, and say even it goes at 171,000 as it is appearing in the 2020 amended regulations, what is the mischief you are curing by separating the two? Thank you.
Thank you. And I also have my own issues I want to find. I want the minister to clarify on. These are not directly related to the license. I only have one related to the license. The rest are for the Omontua Wansi. The one for the related is, I wanted to ask the minister, when do you intend to carry out an infrastructure audit to avert duplication? At what point? Because there's a lot of duplication going on in the country. Now, my real issues which I wanted to raise, UCC, as the regulators of the communication sector, as the country prepares to go for the scientific elections, how ready are you to ensure that candidates get free airtime on radio and data, on radio and TVs? That one is a very serious point. Yes. And then I also, that's the first point. I hope you have noted that one. Then secondly, I want to ask you, do you think that the distribution of internet, the current distribution of internet across the country, is able to sustain social media campaigns? Because apparently we are supposed to go for scientific elections. As the technical people in the sector, do you think the internet we have today can sustain us throughout that time? And the quality of the internet also, because it is weak in some places. Some places up to now have not got enough connections. MTN is not there in some areas, Airtel is not there in some areas. Now the internet providers are within the central region. Do you think that somebody in Nakapiripirit or in Otuke down there, or in Tororo in a place called Paya, or in Usuk, will be able to sustainably engage in the social media campaigns? And then I also want to ask you, what is the distribution like of TV and radio sets around the country? The current distribution, because if we are to go for these social media, for scientific campaigns, we must also first of all have a census of what we have before, because I had government talking of bringing in 10 million radio sets. So what is the distribution so far as we prepare for the coming elections? And then I also want to ask you my second last question, that how ready are you to regulate social media, which sometimes has people who are abusive, insultive during campaigns? How ready are you to regulate that? And then finally, in view of the scientific elections due to take place, do you still think we should continue taxing people on OTT? Do you think we should still continue taxing people since they have to pay to be on internet? Don't you think it is a necessary evil? We need to eliminate, to remove it, such that because most of the campaign is going to be on Facebook, and you know Facebook is the most affected by OTT. Yes, so we need to know whether we still need, government needs to relax on OTT, such that we then can have a meaningful scientific campaign stroke election. Thank you. Honorable Minister, please respond to our queries.
Madam Chair and honorable members, first of all, I would like to begin by thanking members for their contributions in specific questions, areas of supplement and support to the sector. I will, first of all, with your indulgence and permission, Madam Chair, request that number one, there are issues I want my technical people to respond to begin with the petition. Then there are issues I will address to you and the committee after they have responded to the issues which were raised. So, Madam Chair, with your permission, allow me invite the Permanent Secretary and the ED to respond to some of the technical issues which were raised. I thank you.
Okay, we'll start with the ED, then PS, then Minister.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the honorable members for the very good questions. We're always welcoming such feedback to help us do our work better and improve on our services to the public. Madam Chair, some of the questions were related. I'll try to go through them as noted. In terms of the applying for one license, we wish to clarify, if you're within a region, what we have made provision for is you won't need to pay for the second license. So for example, if you're in the central region and you wish to have a service provider license, and you find that it also necessitates you to have an infrastructure provider license, you will not pay for both licenses. The second one is automatically catered for in the price of the first. And this is also reflected with the fact that in most cases your gross annual revenue is composite. So the levy is, the percentage that is being proposed is across your gross annual levy. So you pay it once, you don't have to pay for two fees. The issue about the minimum fee, and I thought I had it alluded to, so I will clarify that. The only reason we are coming in with a minimum fee is really because we have new entrants. Ideally would say we are just looking at how you are performing and basing on that in terms of a levy. But you have...
Order.
Yes, point of order.
Madam Chair, the Minister presented a statement, a response to the petition. Members responded to the Minister's presentation. I would like the ED looking like he's generating new issues, new things, not responding to the issues we have raised. Please, Madam Chair, I don't think the ED is in order to educate us about new things. We made a response based on the response by the Minister.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Madam Chair, maybe I need to request you with your permission and the permission of the committee, to allow us to respond to issues which were raised. Like we did, if I can correct the record, in my document, I did say my purpose of being here was entirely to answer issues of the petition. But you found that some of the issues I'd raised were outside the petition during the course of my presentation. For that matter, I want to kindly beg my colleagues that please, the sector, and again I want to repeat this, the sector is technical. So some of the issues which are going to be responded might not have shortcuts, but to remain at the technical level.
That is what I
which
wanted
needs
to,
a foundation. So I really want to beg us.
say that
for instance,
the ED was building her point.
For instance, if I was correct and if she's right, there's been a question, we would give her time to respond. There's been a question of almost double charge. Now, if ED is correct to the way I've understood her, she has given the leverage to the service providers to pay one license, which to me and to us, most of us thought that it would be a double charge, which in my opinion, the same region, which to her, she has made it clear, no, it's not a double charge. So I want to request Honorable, my very good friend, that the very way you value me so much, that though today I'm a bit disappointed that you're beginning to say that because I've gone there. So allow the ED first select me. I want
Madam Chair,
protect the ED
yes.
well past.
I wanted to give
Madam
the
Chair.
ED 3. I wanted to give the ED 3.5 minutes to exhaust
Madam
her
Chair.
points. Okay,
Madam
5
Chair.
minutes.
Madam
5 minutes
Chair.
to the ED.
Madam Chair, what is before us?
Honorable colleagues, let us make this meeting as friendly as possible.
And also give time to listen to people.
Getting more information is good for you. Is good for you.
Yes.
But the decision is ours.
Yes.
That
the
one
committee will take the last decision.
Whether they bring which forest of
English,
words
yes.
of English, the decision is what?
Is ours.
Is ours.
Yes.
If she's making her case better, so much the better for her. If she's making her case worse, it is up to her. You get me? Listen to her.
Okay, members, please let's not interrupt the ED.
Madam Chair.
She's the only woman. There are two.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. You know, I want us to also take care of the petitioner's interest.
But you haven't even listened. She had just started. How will you know whether the petitioner's interest is catered for or not?
The petitioner is here for national PIP and national PSP. Let us restrict ourselves not to so many other licenses.
Can you listen? You see, Honorable Nsamba.
The interest is
Honorable Nsamba, just a minute. And it's very dangerous for you to conclude when you haven't even listened to what somebody wanted to say. You gave a point of order when she had just mentioned 10 words. So can we give her 5 minutes? Note down whatever you feel you're not comfortable of her presentation, and then you will have the time to do the final rebuttal, and we call it a day, because this petition has to be presented to the House tomorrow. So we don't have the luxury of time. Yes, Edie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the members for understanding. As guided, I was actually responding to questions Honorable Ting Kansimere raised, where he expressed dissatisfaction that they were being limited to apply for only one license. So it's clarifying the regional and the national, which in his case he had made it blanket. And apologies if I misled the House in that respect. There was the issue of speculation, again, that was raised by Honorable Ting Kansimere, and asked about the evidence of trading. Yes, we've had in the period of the current licensing regime, which began in 2006, cases of where we have continuously had to follow up. The operators are required to commence operations in 12 months, and we end up in the continuous excuses of delay, and then the next thing is we get an application for trading.
When we are asking for evidence, the evidence that I want is concerning the petitioners. If you bring any other evidence, the lawyer will get it. But for me, I am interested in, can you accuse these petitioners here of speculation, of having no capital to put in the business? Can you accuse them?
PS wanted to accuse them. Yes.
Did you?
I saw your hand up.
Honorable Chair, I just wanted to, bring, to give clarity.
Yes.
The paper that the minister presented did not in any way accuse the petitioners. But we stated the fact that there are people who apply for licenses, including radio, as you know very well. People ask for spectrum. There is no spectrum simply because somebody is holding a license. He bought, but he wants to sell it to somebody who will give them more money. They get a license from UCC for $10,000 US. He wants to send it for $200,000 US. I think that was the respect in which the minister raised that issue. It was not that the petitioners have been holding spectrum or holding licenses.
But also next time you should really be explicit in the way you raise your matters in a presentation. Yes, Chair. Yeah, I don't want to confuse the ED. I want her to finish her presentation, her submission.
Chair, our concern.
And I think this is what was raised regarding the minister's presentation. There is a lot of information that was lumped up of your experience of the entire sector. But to be fair to the particular case we are prosecuting here, if I may use, which is brought by the petitioners, I think any information, any regulatory challenges you face, it should be in respect to the petitioners. Otherwise, we will broaden and will provide information which is not directly relating to the matter at hand. It's true there are many challenges in the
ED, I think restrict yourself to the petition. Yes, don't overbroaden.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies to that. What we were attempting to do was to provide the explanation of why the licensing regime was developed as is. So the licensing regime is not specific to handle only a particular category of operators. It is addressing all the different actors in the sector because we need a multi-pronged approach to be able to address our development agenda as a country. So the licensing regime is not targeting a particular group of operators, as has been alluded to, but rather trying to create an enabling environment that helps us realize the objectives that were outlined by government in the National Broadband Policy of 2018.
Okay.
Honorable members, and I just wanted to draw the attention of the meeting to this document that has the table where we indicated what the respective members of the petitioning association had committed to in getting their licenses, and instead where they have limited their operations to. So as was pointed out, it's not that we're trying to push them out, we're trying to facilitate them, that rather than be forced to hold a license that carries national obligations, we allow them the flexibility to choose where they want to operate. Madam Chair and honorable members, I also want to put it on record that as the Commission, we have invited the existing operators to discuss with each of them the challenges they have in migrating to the new sector so that we identify ways to help them mitigate those issues. Such letter can be shared with the committee for evidence as has been requested. In terms of why NITA holds a license, Madam Chair, this was actually a concern of private sector, which was deemed that it is an unfair competition for NITA to operate without a license in the same market as private sector. So that was why NITA was required to also hold a license like its competitors.
Yeah, NITA has a license.
We have.
She can go ahead to tell us if NITA has actually renewed because it is expiring on the 30th of this month. The one with NITA.
Yes, has NITAU applied for renewal?
Madam Chair,
And at what point does one apply for a license?
we have halted renewal of all the previous licenses and have requested all of them to apply for licenses under the new license category, this including UETCL, NITAU, and Uganda Telecom. So all of them are in the process of submitting their applications, Madam Chair.
But Chair, Edie, how are you going to avert the issue of duplication?
Duplication, Madam Chair, is a big issue. We already have it as a policy. In the license, there's already a provision, even the licenses that have been existing in place, there was an obligation about sharing and only constructing where they have not. So we together with the sector, we have developed principles of interconnection as a precursor to the regulations that are going to be developed on interconnection. So as the sector, they have already come up with issues that need to be considered to avert the duplication issue. In addition, we have also set up specific, for example, we have developed the national roaming guidelines, which is a form of infrastructure sharing, and then are looking also at the other aspects. Under the guidance of the ministry, we have brought on board this cross-sectorial issue that was brought to the committee, so that when we have national regulations, they are also encompassing and facilitating us to harness the other side. But already we are also putting in place a provision where one will not be allowed to construct new infrastructure unless they have shown that they are not able to get the infrastructure required from existing ones. However, there was an issue about that they have not gone to the other areas and we have not engaged them to understand the reasons. The point. I just want to propose something, that she holds, or UCC holds, the issuance of licenses to these government entities, the NITAU, UTL, until we have a rich matrix of how they are going to share the government, the government infrastructure.
It is what you said that they are
for you to go ahead and issue and even call for applications for those 3 entities.
Actually, Chair.
You said they have halted. They have halted for now.
For
Chair,
these government entities.
I'm seeking clarification on a matter of law.
Okay, maybe he will do that.
We know that the UCC Act of 2013, as amended, and it is within this actually section 933 of this act, clause B, where Parliament is having mandate to revoke, to look into these regulations and or revoke them within 30 days. I am wondering if UCC is complying with this particular section by already proceeding to invite even applications based on the new amended regulations, even several weeks or months before it is submitted to Parliament and the due process is concluded within the 30 days. On what merit and mandate is UCC proceeding to already call for applications, well aware that the parliamentary process is not ended?
But Madam Chair, I need really us to be orderly here, because the ED has gone on record and said she has halted the process of renewal of all other licenses pending the parliamentary confirmation or approval of the new regulations which are going to take effect. Am I correct there?
There's something she said.
So for that matter, the ED is here, and I want to request us, even if we look at the same law which we're talking about, yes, there's a specific area I saw which mandates within the act. First of all, the issue of infrastructure sharing is one thing which I also want to invite these members to the broadband policy. There's a policy we passed in 2018, but policy mandates us as government and all other players to share infrastructure. And that policy is what is going to drive the sector going forward. And that is why we must put in more emphasis. For instance...
But Honorable Minister, you are also aware that though, even if you pass the broadband policy, you are not whipping enough you have kind of folded back your hands and let the sector determine how they deploy their infrastructure.
Chair, I have Madam Chair there. I want to ask
Honourable Minister.
Yes,
Honourable Minister, respond to this at the same time. You're talking about infrastructure sharing, and if really your interest is to deal with duplication, and that is your interest, to deal with the duplication, what you should be doing now is coming up with infrastructure sharing regulations. You shouldn't be coming withdrawing people's licenses. You're going to respond after me, after I put up this. So the cure of avoiding duplication is not withdrawing people's licenses, is not increasing license fees. The cure is come up with regulations for infrastructure sharing. There you will have helped the sector. The interest to increase fees, the interest to withdraw licenses, you're curing something else, not that one you're talking about.
I first inform my colleague very well, Madam Chair, that I did lay on table. Unfortunately, I'm the one who laid these regulations to the floor of Parliament here. The interconnection and access. I did. It's one of the regulations I laid before the floor of Parliament, and I really want to draw us that we have to look at some of this. The interconnection.
Okay, honourable members.
Yes,
Honourable Samba, please, you're going to be speaking through the chair from now henceforth.
Madam Chair.
Please, Honourable Tinker, we have less than 30 minutes to plenary time, and I want to hear. Yes, please.
The issue we are quarreling about, sometimes it is, for me, I have had the privilege of being on this committee for some
15 years, yes.
And that period, when we were making this particular law, and they chose to come up with a clause that allows the UCC to make, actually the ministry, to make regulations. The intention of Parliament was not actually to cripple the activities of the ministry. We had in mind that these people within the 30 days, when they have laid, they can complain on a particular regulation which they don't want. It does not mean that if they have laid a complaint, the entire thing collapses. No.
Okay, that point is taken. That point is taken. Edie, I want the...
I think the issues which they are dealing with are administrative.
Yeah.
Administrative.
Okay, I want the ED to wind up when I come to the PS. Please, ED.
Madam Chair, let me guide this here. Before the ED winds up, because I really need the PS to make 1 or 2 observations, then ED proceeds with our submissions.
Okay.
Honorable, thank you, Honorable Minister, Honorable Chair, and Honorable Members. The Uganda Communications Act is quite clear in many ways, in the sense that even in the absence of regulations, telecom companies can be licensed. It is very clear. License for Section 22, license for telecommunications. It does not target to regulations, and that's why in the regulations it says the minister may. In fact, the minister can choose not to make regulations, but does not mean that the telecom companies will not do what? Will not pay license fees. In fact, should the minister choose not to, because the law says may make regulations, should the minister choose not to make those regulations, then he wouldn't be here. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Okay, ED, honorable members.
Madam Chair,
we actually did push to the minister. They had refused.
They had refused. By the way, it was a long battle.
It was not easy.
It was a very long battle, I remember.
Madam Chair.
That the minister may actually could ignore.
Madam Chair.
I want us to move, members.
Madam Chair.
I wanted the Madam Edie, just hold your fire. I want the Edie to conclude, then we can now.
But Madam Chair, the PS has made a very big statement.
But you cannot respond on each and everything that.
Madam Chair, he has told us that even without these regulations, for them they are going to proceed. That's what he's saying.
Can I make a clarification here?
In the law.
So he's just telling us that we are wasting time here.
Honorable Samba, I want us to go on record. We have the UCC Act 2003, 2013, which I would request that
you read your law verbatim to call to.
Let me qualify my statement. The law says the minister may, and then it goes to the next section and says, if the minister so wishes to, Parliament shall review in 30 days. So there is a qualification. Meaning that in case the minister chooses not to, then there will be nothing to review. But now he has chosen to and he has laid, then there is something to review.
You're now doing your work.
And that's what Parliament is doing.
Okay, ED, please. Honorable members, order. Members, let us see how we move forward in this meeting. Yes, please.
Madam Chair and honorable members, in the interest of time, I'll just summarize and say, as has already highlighted, internal connection issues have been looked at in the document. The RCDF is not only funding the major operator, the national operators, as has been alluded to. All the contributors are actually beneficiaries of this, and it doesn't only address supply side, but also the demand stimulation side. Yes, we'll do that. And then note that they are being told they cannot provide an operator that's countrywide. It is a business choice. All we are giving them is flexibility to choose how they want to do their business, rather than boxing them into a license of national if what they prefer is regional. So it is a business decision on their side. And regarding the IACO, yes, Madam Chair, thank you for recognizing that. We already have an ongoing effort under the East African Communication Operators Group organization, where we are looking at harmonization of ICT policy and regulatory framework. So there is already ongoing work under IACO towards that harmonization. Okay. And infrastructure has been talked about. Madam Chair, you asked about the scientific, and I know the PS is going to speak to that, because we are in a joint effort to set out, to pave out and guide the sector players in terms of how we are going to handle this new assignment to the sector. Okay. In terms of the statistics, we get those from UBOS, who we collaborate with in gathering the information. Madam Chair, with that I want to submit in the interest of time.
Madam Chair,
thank you,
maybe first of all, I want really to call upon this committee. There are a few issues which of course I picked for us as the leaders of the ministry. The question of us beginning, for instance, there was an issue which said that parliaments are here to protect the weak, which I want to say, we believe that the work of Parliament is to protect all players, including the big. So for that matter, when we talk about can I, Madam Chair, can I request
let him finish that statement, then you come in.
Oh, here's the submission. Because
Madam Chair, I want
issues of Parliament. We are very passionate about it.
He will forget his point.
Madam Chair, can I request that?
I think that when a weak person is being stepped on, we will hold the leg and say, why are you stepping on?
Madam Chair,
that is the role of
can I request that?
Okay, Honorable Tinker, point taken. Honorable Minister.
Can I request that for us, we are talking about all players in the sector, and we thank all players for the contributions they are making to the development of IT in this country. It is our role to facilitate and foster the growth of IT in this country, and that's why If again I'm to address myself, which I want to refer to page 5 of my presentation earlier on, it really spells out the main purpose why we're talking about the new licensing regime, which I want to appeal, Madam Chair, to my colleagues in this committee, that please, there are issues which you've raised, which I am happy. The time I've been in the ministry for the last 6 months, every day I open my door for a colleague. There are issues of network. There are issues of connectivity. There are issues, computers. There are issues. So these are some of the issues which we are trying to appeal to you. That the challenge which the country faces today, that all players do not want to invest in areas where they feel the return on investment is low. So it's prudent to all of us here to begin to say, how do we come up with laws, regulations, which I'm happy that the national broadband policy.
But just a minute, Honorable Minister, just hold it there. Where players are not ready to invest because of low productivity, I thought it is the role of government to invest.
I'm coming.
And NETAU is facilitated to do that.
Madam Chair, I'm coming to talk about that, and that's why I was going to appeal to the committee. I wish I could be heard in silence.
Order, speak through the chair, Madam Edie and Patrick.
Madam Chair, the minister.
I did give you opportunity.
The minister has tickled me.
Madam Chair,
the minister has tickled me, Madam Chair.
Give you the opportunity.
And he has
out
made,
of order. I ruled you out of order. I didn't give you opportunity to
the
talk.
minister submitted something very, very good. He has
given you permission to speak.
Madam Chair, you missed the word.
On the floor.
You missed the minister's.
Please respect the chair's seat. It is the minister on the floor.
Madam Chair, I wanted to.
Please, minister, please proceed.
So, Madam Chair, I was addressing myself in those issues. Madam Chair, the question which has not been addressed, which of course maybe we shall put it in writing, there was an issue of the formula of the computations, which my technical people have not firmly come out. How did we come with these computations? How did we arrive to this? I expected this computation would have been made clear for purposes of us putting the record clear, so that they don't say we are only dealing with big players. So that I needed that answer to be made clear. The issue of MTN investing in priority areas, I want to say this: the broadband policy compels, first of all, that the investment infrastructure must be reached at the parish level. And the new license regime, which I know MTN has signed, if I'm correct, compels the investment of MTN to be 90% of the national coverage, as per my statement. That removes the issue of network in the rest of the country. The other issue, of course, UCC is not audited, which I want again to say, no, UCC is audited, and I think this issue was handled. The issue of the national backbone infrastructure, which, of course, players are saying, it is true, government is continuing to invest in the NBI. The more we complete on our last mile in terms of investment in the NBI, this will help reduce on the cost of internet service in this country. This will also help to facilitate the growth of the assumed smaller players, because other than them laying their own fiber, they will be able now to tap on the NBI and will continue working, which makes the cost of business or the cost of work become cheap. This I want to say, of course there are areas in the country where there's already an NBI, but there are areas still where we still have a challenge, which again within my ministry is, and I call upon Parliament at the right time when we come here, we shall need the support of this committee in terms of supporting the last mile in the connectivity of NBI all over the country. The issue of
Ministry or as
please, I want to address myself as a minister of the sector, because NETAU is under me, so that is an agency in my sector. So the issue of
Honorable Minister,
can I be protected, Madam Chair?
Please, just seeking clarification on his point, because of course we all know we want to bring down the cost of the internet. He's addressing himself to that issue of bringing down the cost of the internet. I told you, I just gave you information that right now the cost of internet by NETAU is 80, as compared to the $35 to $50 that other vendors, that the others are charging. So if we want to encourage others to come, to spark growth into this area, why is it still up? Why is the NITAYU's internet still so expensive? It's become very hard for people to lease onto the backbone. They are looking at it in other vendors like maybe C-Square, like BCS.
Okay, thank you.
Why?
Honorable Minister.
First of all, I would like to thank Honorable Engineer for raising that specific issues. It is true. First, if we all recalls, I think either a year ago, of course I was not in the minister, and I'm happy Honorable Tinka Simre is here. The NITAYU cost of internet was almost about $300 megabyte per second per month. So for that purpose, the mere fact of coming to 70 or 80 is a good reduction. And our plan as a sector is entirely to make the cost of internet go to about 10. The more we open up, the more we continue connecting the NBI to the rest of the countryside, it helps us reduce on the cost of internet. And I want to ask the committee, it is true that there might be other players out here which are cheaper than NITAYU, but we are working hard as a sector to make the NBI coverage get national so that we totally look at least 10 megabyte, which entirely is cheap. The issue, of course, which I want to talk about, the issue of the pandemic, the order document, Madam Chair, did address that issue which was raised, that my new document specifically did not talk about the pandemic. So, but the earlier submitted document did. There was a response on as far as the prayers of the petitioners are concerned. Then, the other issue which I want to conclude is on, I want to thank my brother, Honorable Paul Amoro, for making it very, very emphatic, the purpose, and I want to thank this committee. You have been supportive to the sector on the Innovation Fund. And this Innovation Fund, we want to commend you and ask you to continue supporting. We can be able to come, maybe PS, we can be able to give information, but it's already in the municipal statement which we submitted before this Parliament on how many young people have benefited from Innovation Fund. It is a humble appeal that we continue to add in more money so that the sector grows. Then, Madam Chair, there was issues, an infrastructure audit. Also this PSED, why haven't we, hasn't it, I need this information, haven't we done the infrastructure audit or we did it? So this must also be answered for purposes of the record here. Now, there are issues which I really want to say. How ready are we to ensure that candidates get freer time? I want to say this, as a ministry, first of all, and I'm happy that I have the EDUCC allow us come back or make a formal response. These are issues which we have not entirely discussed at our level. And so I want to say this, but also I am happy Honorable Tinka Simire here owns a radio station, which I'm proud I was in his area there. To a big extent, which again I would not want to respond. That can I please, because anything I will say here, it will be, allow me come with a formal statement for purposes of this question, Madam Chair. But we want to thank the liberalization policy, which has really facilitated the growth of the radios. For instance, today, to my knowledge, you have 309, am I correct, FM stations in the country. Licensed, we have about 39 television stations in the country. And of course, 90.5% of the Ugandan population listens to radio. For that matter, are we ready? If 90.5% of the population listens to radio, it tells, I want to answer that question in affirmative, yes. The second issue is, can I please be protected? Can I please be protected?
You're protected.
Can I get into?
But you are not also answering the question in a proper way.
So number two, I also want to answer this. Even then, when without this pandemic, we all know that whoever would be a parliamentary candidate or a presidential candidate, at one point or the other, whether it collects people in one area, that same message would be relayed on radios for purposes. We all know Usuk, one rally cannot bring all the people of Usuk in that rally. But there are people who will be listening to radios of what is it. So I want to commend those who have really, like a case in point is Honorable Tinka Simire, who found it important to invest in this sector. This is what we need. The world over, as we all know, in the developed countries, people go to town halls, and what do? People, they have to use televisions, they have to use radios, and they relay their messages. And I wish this country would really begin to learn from this. And Honorable Shabe, me and you are in that era. We are in the era of where we must accept, with or without this pandemic, it's about debate on TV, on radios, to reach out to the people. And I want to say this, I'm coming to talk about televisions. I'm coming to talk about television. The next issue is the question of, is there internet, or is the internet accessible across the country? This question is not, I can't say internet is not all over the country. However, are there other forms of how the message can reach to the people? Yes. It's not about having that all citizens of the country are on internet. For instance, my people in Usuk, how many of us ED? This is again for you. How many people on smartphones? Less than 5 million. Am I correct? Or 6? Or 6? No, please.
She has the data. Please respect
my office.
Yes,
we have the data. So for that matter, if there are about 6 to 5 million internet users, we are dealing with the people who are on smartphones. That does not mean that my mother, who has her katochi in Kabirit, does not have access to information. No, my mother. Can I proceed?
Yes, Minister.
So for that matter, Madam Chair, I want to say that the country is really moving on well, and we are. The question of radio distribution, it is true government has come up with a plan. Which plan is? First of all, I want to again correct this record, because sometimes people want to distort facts. The radios were entirely to facilitate and to ease learning of our children. It is true we have planned to look at about 10 million households. I'm coming to that, because we are talking about exam. Learning is not about passing exam.
And by the way, Honorable Minister, just a minute.
Learning is about
Honorable Minister. 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 Honorable Minister.